An aquatic mind. Once was a cold pit, but now it's a water ride. Makes you wanna sit back, enjoy the life, and do things you like doing, get to shine. It's sure beats fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. I stay knuckled up, I'm in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna cut me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. I'm in narrow hallways, running like it's a ball game. Hand tracks be tracking me to different doorways. In a maze, and I don't know what to do. Guaranteed though, I'ma find the emeralds. Don't call me Knuckles for nothing, I get loose. Sure beats fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. Stay knuckled up in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna throw me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. Don't call me Knuckles, give me a box. An aquatic mind. Once was a cold pit, but now it's a water ride. Makes you wanna sit back, enjoy the life, and do things you like doing, get to shine. It's sure beats fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. I stay knuckled up, I'm in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna cut me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. I'm in narrow hallways, running like it's a ball game. Hand tracks be tracking me to different doorways. In a maze, and I don't know what to do. Guaranteed though, I'ma find the emeralds. Don't call me Knuckles for nothing, I get loose. Sure beats fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. Stay knuckled up in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna throw me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. Don't call me Knuckles, give me a box. An aquatic mind. Once was a cold pit, but now it's a water ride. Makes you wanna sit back, enjoy the life, and do things you like doing, get to shine. It's sure beats fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. I stay knuckled up, I'm in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna cut me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. I'm in narrow hallways, running like it's a ball game. Hand tracks be tracking me to different doorways. In a maze, and I don't know what to do. Guaranteed though, I'ma find the emeralds. Don't call me Knuckles for nothing, I get loose. Sure beats fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. Stay knuckled up in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna throw me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. Don't call me Knuckles, give me a box. sure bees fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. I stay knuckled up, I'm in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna cut me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. I'm in narrow hallways, running like it's a ball game. Hand tracks be tracking me to different doorways. In a maze, and I don't know what to do. Guaranteed though, I'ma find the emeralds. Don't call me Knuckles for nothing, I get loose. Sure bees fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. Stay knuckled up in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna throw me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. Don't call me Knuckles, give me a box. An aquatic mind. Once was a cold pit, but now it's a water ride. Makes you wanna sit back, enjoy the life, and do things you like doing, get to shine. It's sure bees fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. I stay knuckled up, I'm in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna cut me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. I'm in narrow hallways, running like it's a ball game. Hand tracks be tracking me to different doorways. In a maze, and I don't know what to do. Guaranteed though, I'ma find the emeralds. Don't call me Knuckles for nothing, I get loose. Sure bees fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. Stay knuckled up in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna throw me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. Don't call me Knuckles, give me a box. An aquatic mind. Once was a cold pit, but now it's a water ride. Makes you wanna sit back, enjoy the life, and do things you like doing, get to shine. It's sure bees fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. I stay knuckled up, I'm in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna cut me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. I'm in narrow hallways, running like it's a ball game. Hand tracks be tracking me to different doorways. In a maze, and I don't know what to do. Guaranteed though, I'ma find the emeralds. Don't call me Knuckles for nothing, I get loose. Sure bees fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. Stay knuckled up in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna throw me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. Don't call me Knuckles, give me a box. why I stay on point like every single day. I gotta protect this place, I do it for my race. It's your main man Knuckles, and we're Media Herd. You ready to go in space? Help me get the emeralds.
Alrighty, I am back. You already know what's up. We got politics, we got news, and we have cringe. The trifecta of a political streamer's existence. We're gonna get into some good stuff today. Just give me like a couple seconds to get this hype train going. Hope everyone's doing good. Thanks for returning, man. This shit has been going a lot better than I thought it would, man. Like, it's pretty easy to gain traction if you just stick with it, dude. You know, like I tried starting this maybe like a year ago, but I had way too much stuff going on, and I was just like not in a good spot mentally, you know. But now I feel like pumped and excited to just do this. You know what I mean? It's fun. I get to talk to people online about the shit that I care about, maybe try to educate some people, you know. Professor Davinic over here, like it always should be. Oh my goodness. One moment. You already know what I need before I start. Hit the vape, a sip of Monster, and a sip of water, man. All right. So our first article is about Julian Assange. The CIA, as usual, has been up to just freaking crazy shit. Like trying to, first they tried to assassinate him, then they tried to kidnap him, and now some documents have came out that just kind of further expose the extent of the crazy bullshit that they were trying to do in regards to Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. If you don't already know, Julian Assange had leaked documents, the most documents and videos, the most famous one being Collateral Murder, which basically just showed what we already knew, confirmed what we already knew, that the US was committing war crimes left and right in the so-called war on terror. And they don't like it when their dirty laundry is exposed to the public. So let's go ahead and get into this article. So our first article comes from Jacobin, and it was written by Chip Gibbons. It's titled "Secret Documents Have Exposed the CIA's Julian Assange Obsession." Let's get right into it. Stefania Maurizi. Every time I read an article, bro, they gotta put the hardest freaking names possible to pronounce, dude. I suck at speaking. I'm getting better, though. Shit, this is practice. Anyway, Stefania Maurizi was no stranger to the Ecuadorian embassy in London. The Italian investigative reporter had worked as a partner journalist with WikiLeaks for all its major releases since 2009. Maurizi had also pursued litigation in 4 separate countries seeking to compel the governments to release information about Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. Assange, at that point, was trapped in the embassy. In 2012, Ecuador's Democratic Socialist government granted him political asylum, but the United Kingdom made clear they would arrest the journalist should he ever set foot outside the embassy. Maurizi had visited him a number of times. So this is like one of the only times where bureaucracy saved someone's ass. You know what I mean? Like, technically, embassies are considered like territory of the country that occupies that embassy, so that's how he's able to like skirt the US and UK like police and intelligence forces in there, or he's supposed to be able to. We'll get into it in this article. While Maurizi met with Assange on December 29th, 2017, embassy security held on to her electronics for the duration of the visit. As she talked to her journalistic counterpart, employees of the Spanish security firm UC Global accessed her devices, photographed them, disassembled one of her phones, and removed its SIM card. On at least one occasion, the same security contract took audio and video recordings of her meeting with Assange. Psychotic freaking shit, man. Come on. Since Assange had become an unexpected resident, the embassy beefed up its security by hiring Spanish security firm UC Global. In early 2017, UC Global had imposed a new regime on Assange's myriad of visitors. It demanded they turn over their passports and electronic devices when visiting the Australian journalist. UC Global also placed new video cameras inside the embassy. In spite of their claims to the contrary, those cameras recorded not just video, but audio. Unbeknownst to Assange's guests, UC Global was photographing their passports as well as attempting to access their electronic devices. According to former employees, UC Global's actions within the embassy may have been at the behest of a second client, U.S. intelligence services. For 3 years now, UC Global and its owner, David Morales, have been the subject of an ongoing criminal probe in Spain. A Spanish judge has been investigating whether Morales, a Spanish citizen, violated Assange's right to privacy and attorney-client privilege by spying on legal meetings. Morales is also being investigated for money laundering and bribery. The inquiry has increasingly focused on Morales' alleged ties to the CIA. In June, Spain's National High Court issued a subpoena for former CIA Director Mike Pompeo to testify about a possible CIA plot to assassinate Assange. So this is right out of the USA's counterintelligence playbook, man. You've seen you'll see it time and time again throughout history where they're not necessarily the smartest. They just have the most resources, man. And a lot of the times they try to brute force their geopolitical will across the globe in like half-ass attempts to subvert democracy and the people's will. There was talk about potential U.S. involvement in the assassination of the Haitian president that happened, I think, about 2 months ago, maybe, give or take. They were probably involved with the stuff going on with Maduro over in, man, which country was it actually? I think it was either Brazil or Venezuela, that where Maduro was from. The guy who declared himself president when he wasn't elected, and he was basically they were trying to make him the U.S.'s puppet, but it failed miserably, man. So a lot of the times, like I said, it's just brute force and violence that gets the CIA's directives put through. They're not some kind of like hyper intelligent boogeyman as they like to portray themselves. They're just they throw everything to the wall and see what sticks, and everything is on the table. You know what I mean? Why are conservatives anti-gay, but then turn out to be the most fruity people? Dude, it is all projection, bro. Like, I'm sure you hear it from everyone who talks about this shit, man. To be a conservative, you've got to have a lot of demons, in my opinion, dude. It's like just shit that they haven't worked out inside, and so they project all that insecurity and like fear out into the world, and so they don't have to deal with it. At least that's my opinion, man. They go through all this goofy fucking crazy shit instead of just going to therapy. You know what I mean? They'd rather fucking kidnap and torture people than just fucking talk about their problems, All right. And it is not just in Spain where Pompeo and UC Global are facing legal scrutiny. In August, 2 American journalists, Charles Glass and John Goetz, joined with 2 of Assange's American lawyers, Margaret Ratner and Kunstler and Deborah Herbrecht, I don't know if they spelled that right, in bringing a lawsuit against former CIA Director Mike Pompeo, the CIA, UC Global, and Morales. The lawsuit alleges the copying of phones and electronic devices by UC Global was on behalf of the CIA and personally approved by Pompeo. As a result, their Fourth Amendment rights were violated. So like I said, the deep state, the national security apparatus were furious when Assange exposed them. And I actually have a companion article to this one. We're going to read just 3 paragraphs from that kind of goes into more detail as to how high up this went and how it's not just the right-wing fascists who want him taken down. It's also the neoliberal bureaucrats who want to shut down WikiLeaks as well. So let's get into that. So again, this is just another article from Jacobin by Chip Gibbons again. Yeah, same guy. There we go. Keeping us informed. The CIA tried but failed to tie WikiLeaks to Russian intelligence. Eager to evade any oversight, the CIA declared WikiLeaks a non-state intelligence agency, thus allowing them to act without presidential approval or congressional notice. The 2018 Intelligence Authorization Act, passed by Congress, declared that WikiLeaks and the senior leadership of WikiLeaks resemble a non-state hostile intelligence service, often abetted by state actors, and should be treated as such a service by the United States. This raises serious questions about what Congress knew. No subsequent legislations contain similar language. At this point, the CIA obsession took a dark turn. Executives within the agency requested sketches on how to assassinate Assange and other WikiLeaks figures involved with Vault 7. These plans were scuttled and don't appear to ever have made it beyond internal CIA discussions. Nonetheless, the fact that CIA leaders were requesting that assassination plans be drawn up is alarming, to say the least. While the assassination plans did not go far, the scheme to kidnap Assange made it to the White House It perplexed National Security Council lawyers who noted that Assange hadn't even been charged with the crime and that it was unclear under what authority the CIA could seize Assange or even where they would hold him. So yeah, I wanted to bring that up. Assange literally did not commit any kind of crime. What he did is protected by whistleblower laws in the United States, but you already know how it is. There's a two-tier justice system. The justice system for the peasants, where if you do something to upset the power structure, they'll put the boot on your neck as hard as possible. They'll drive you underground and make your life a living hell, as they did with Assange. But if you're someone like Trump or even Biden, who have both done fucked up things, who are both war criminals, they get away with it because it's all part of the U.S.'s plan for global dominance and political and economic control. So there's a little background over, the CIA's fucked up shit and handling WikiLeaks and Assange. So let's get back into the main article. Here we go. The earliest proof of surveillance came weeks before Assange was ultimately arrested. A group of Spanish nationals approached WikiLeaks with videos of Assange inside the embassy, demanding 3 million, I don't know if that's euros, 3 million some type of dollars for their return. WikiLeaks reached out to Spanish authorities, and editor-in-chief Kristen Hrafnsson traveled to Spain to meet with the extortionists as part of a sting operation. The extortionists were arrested, but there were still many questions. The story was quickly overshadowed. The day after WikiLeaks went public about the extortion attempt and the surveillance, Assange was arrested. So they got caught showing their ass, and then they retaliated immediately, man. Following Assange's arrest, the Spanish daily El País, which had covered the extortion plot, published accounts of former employees of UC Global who described what it was like watching over Assange and spying on his legal meetings. Additionally, a former employee of UC Global approached one of Assange's lawyers with revelations about the surveillance of legal meetings. Assange's legal team filed a criminal complaint against UC Global. At this point, the Spanish judiciary began a probe. The investigation initially took place under seal, but its existence became public in a dramatic way in September 2019 when UC Global's owner was arrested. It's going to get into what exactly UC Global is, but it's basically like a mercenary company. It's founded by this guy who kind of like he wanted to play badass and get into that Black Ops type shit, and he kind of succeeded, man. But again, the CIA is not necessarily competent, so they hired this guy who didn't really have the credentials to be doing this stuff, and he got caught. And we're going to get into all the crazy fuck shit that the CIA and Morales and his company UC Global got up to. Morales is a former Spanish Marine. According to a profile in El País, he admired the U.S. mercenary firm Blackwater and was inspired by it to start the company. He reportedly justified his status as a double agent by boasting, "I'm a mercenary through and through." If you don't know who Blackwater is, they were one of the biggest mercenary groups in the world, and they still might be. They were heavily involved with the U.S. military in Iraq and Afghanistan. The big problem with private military contractors is that they're way less accountable, and the statistics show that they're way more likely to commit war crimes and skirt international law to get that paycheck, so not off to a great start here. It was during this investigation into Morales that the pictures of Maurizi's electronic devices were discovered, but the most shocking evidence remains the testimony of former UC Global employees. 3 former UC Global employees have testified in Spain as protected witnesses, meaning their identities have been withheld from the public. 2 of them also testified as protected witnesses in the UK during Assange's extradition hearing, identified as Witness 1 and Witness 2. Their English language affidavits from this proceeding offer a portrait of UC Global's journey to what Morales called the dark side. So this dude is literally just a straight up LARPer. This dude is like, yeah, I'm going to go to the dark side, and there's going to be political espionage and intrigue, and I'm going to be a badass. Like, And this it's so typical of these people, man. Like, they do such fucked up shit, but a lot of them are just so childish and simple-minded about it, man. You know, that's why they get sucked up by the machine who uses people's ignorance and insecurity to do these fucking terrible, fucked up things, you know? According to Witness 1, UC Global was a small company that solely had contracts with the Ecuadorian government in addition to providing security for the embassy. They also, in addition to providing security for the embassy, they also provided security for President Rafael Correa's daughters. Morales began traveling to the United States by himself for security expositions. Although UC Global was small, holding the security contract for the high-profile Ecuadorian embassy in London would be impressive to his clients. In 2017, Morales announced to his employees that the company had joined what he called the dark side. Witness 1 learned this meant that Morales had entered into illegal agreements with U.S. authorities to supply them with sensitive information about Mr. Assange and Rafael Correa. Morales began frequent trips to the U.S. to visit what he referred to as our American friends. Right out of a fucking bad movie, man. Upon further inquiry, Morales confirmed to Witness 1 that the friends were U.S. intelligence. Morales' wealth inexplicably grew following his trips to the U.S. He also began ordering surveillance within the embassy. Believing he was selling the information to the enemy, Witness 1 left UC Global and informed Assange attorneys of the surveillance. So the article continues, and it gets into how there was this freaking, like, it's out of a fucking James Bond movie, like, I'm telling you. Basically, he had got hired by this billionaire to, like, guard his freaking yacht when it was in the Mediterranean Sea, but he basically used that position to continue this plot against Assange and with his spying, and I'm sure the billionaire was in on it, man. When the thing with billionaires and the wealthy is that they already have everything materially, so they get bored and they're like, okay, well, maybe I'll play at being a fucking supervillain now, you know? So we're gonna get into it. It's fucking wacky. Morales' newfound allegiance to the dark side coincided with another security contract. Morales was paid to personally oversee the security of billionaire Sheldon Adelson's yacht when it entered the Mediterranean Sea. While the contract to guard Adelson's yacht in the Mediterranean was lucrative for Morales personally, to Witness 1 it made little sense. The yacht only entered the Mediterranean for brief periods and had its own security team. In addition to being a wealthy casino magnate, Adelson was a major donor to the Republican Party and was the largest donor to Donald Trump. He was also a major backer of former Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and hard-right positions on Israel. Adelson objected to AIPAC's formal support of the two-state solution. So he already sounds like a beautiful, compassionate human being, man. Hell yeah. Witness 2 confirms the overarching narrative of Witness 1, including that Morales told employees the company had gone to the dark side. Cringe, man. Come on. His references to American friends, frequent trips to the United States, inexplicable wealth, and security contracts for Adelson's yacht. After installing new cameras with the embassy that recorded sound, a fact Witness 2 concealed from both Assange and the embassy, Morales told Witness 2 that the Americans' friends wanted real-time access to all of the security cameras. I really could not imagine being in Assange's situation, man. It must have been just incredibly harrowing, man. Like, multiple huge government organizations out to literally murder you, spying on you at all times, your friends and family, man. Like, he tried to keep the birth of his children secret because he was scared of what these intelligence agencies were going to do to his family. You know, they're vicious and vindictive, man. It's no joke. It's not looking good, unfortunately. You know, he probably is going to end up getting convicted, but I hope justice will prevail somehow, man. We'll have to see. Morales' American friends were particularly interested in listening in on Assange's meeting with his legal team. Many of the requests on behalf of the American friends were communicated by Morales to his staff during his frequent stays at a Las Vegas hotel owned by Adelson. Morales conveyed to Witness 2 other requests from the American friends that went beyond surreptitious recordings. While in the embassy, Assange fathered 2 children with his now wife Stella Assange. Stella and Julian Assange took steps to conceal this fact, fearing for the safety of their children. Nonetheless, either UC Global or the company's American friends began to suspect the truth. The American friends wanted Witness 2 to steal the diapers of one of Assange's children in order to establish Assange's paternity. That is some deeply disturbing bullshit right there, bro. Like, well, first of all, why do they even need that paternity, man? What the fuck are they gonna do to those babies, bro? That's just sick, man. Who the fuck thought of that, man? The Americans' request would take even darker turns. By late 2017, they were increasingly desperate to get Assange out of the embassy. Morales conveyed several suggestions from the Americans to UC Global staff. According to Witness 2, this including leaving the embassy door open so that unknown parties could come in off the street and kidnap Assange. Poisoning Assange was also brought up. Yeah, I remember reading about that on the news, man. They were trying to literally hire, like, UK police officers to go in there and arrest him off the books. You know, they were going to set up something where, like, they wouldn't have the security systems working and just straight up kidnap him like they were the fucking mafia, bro. It's dark stuff, man. Definitely dark and scary shit. In 2021, over a year and a half after the UC Global employees shared their experiences, Yahoo News released a bombshell story based on former U.S. government sources about the CIA's secret war plans against WikiLeaks. And mind you, again, they did nothing illegal. All they did was expose the crimes, capital C crimes, that the U.S. military had committed, as well as crimes of other regimes around the world. And of course, they don't like that because every single state regime today, every single one of them are bad actors, and they only care about the power politics and the spreading of imperialism, you know, imperialism and corporate soulless expansion, you know? Where we are. The CIA received direct footage from within the embassy, plotted to kidnap Assange, and toyed with the idea of assassinating him. That U.S. government sources have detailed CIA plots that mirror those of the UC Global Witness presents fairly powerful corroboration of the most serious allegations. Yahoo's investigation also started the CIA covert operation. Yahoo's investigation also stated the CIA covert operations escalated dramatically as Trump's CIA chief, Pompeo, was incensed by the so-called Vault 7 disclosures detailing highly classified CIA spying techniques. This also lines up with the testimony of the UC Global employees who say the company's actions ramped up considerably after Trump's election, which is not surprising. Trump surrounded himself with the biggest neocon war hawks on the planet, man. Stacked his freaking cabinet with war criminals. So they're some of the most bloodthirsty, fascist, American can do no wrong types on the planet, man. Like I said. The pivotal moment per Yahoo in the CIA's decision to consider kidnapping Assange came after they caught wind that Ecuador might make Assange a diplomat to another country. Assange's legal team was willing to consider countries that struck a defiant posture against the United States, including Venezuela, Bolivia, or Cuba. The Ecuadorian government instead suggested Russia, which had granted Edward Snowden asylum. Assange rejected the idea, fearing it would fuel further conspiracy theories. UC Global captured footage and audio of the meeting where this was discussed, meaning it likely played a pivotal role in the CIA escalation of its covert campaign against Assange. So Assange, he had state operators who were opposed to, you know, the U.S. doing all this crazy shit, and he almost got out, man. He did, but I kind of do agree with him not going to Russia because he's right. For the reactionary forces in the world, that would just, in their eyes, prove their point, and he would probably get even more vicious plots and schemes put against him and his family. So it's a tricky situation, man. You know, when you're fighting against the dominant forces and on the entire planet, it's like you have a limited amount of options, and most of the time you lose, unfortunately, you know. Faced with the claims of his former employees, UC Global owner Morales has denied working for U.S. intelligence. Initially, he denied any surveillance took place at all. After that position became impossible to maintain, Morales switched his story, claiming it was authorized by Ecuador's then ambassador to the UK, Carlos Abad. Like I said, they're always super sloppy. They never hire people who are professionals. They hire people who they think can just get in there and cause the most damage to their enemies as quick as possible, man. Like, I remember with you know what? Let me look up where that guy was from, because I want to give you guys accurate. Maduro. Oh, not Maduro. Who was that guy? Fuck. I can't remember his name, but the fucking fake president in one of those Latin American countries, man. Like him, he had worked with the CIA to send like a boat of like two boats full of Americans to try and overthrow the fucking government over there, bro. You know, it's like these plans are not thought through, man. You'd think that they would have learned, but after the embarrassing stunt was the fucking Bay of Pigs, but they never learn, man. They want to try to keep up that global dominance, and they'll do anything that they can within their power to do so. That's just the end of it, bro, you know? So that was our first article. What do we have for our second article? Yep, so I talk about this all the time, how putting public services in the hands of private institutions is never a good idea. Again, when you put those services in the hand of private institutions, all they care about is making money and cutting costs, so it starts to crumble, and they don't put the infrastructure in place to withstand emergencies. And as the climate gets worse and worse and worse, we start to see the negative effects of that. And Puerto Rico has been especially just brutalized by the climate catastrophe here. It's the climate catastrophe is already here, man. It's wreaking havoc across the globe. The whole theme of this month has been biblical fucking floods, dude, in Pakistan, in Kentucky, and Alaska, and Georgia, all over the place. And they're all struggling. In Kentucky, there's some towns without water, and because, like I said, they're all private. So we're going to get into this. Let's do it. All right, so this article comes from Common Dreams, written by John Quayali. First hit by privatization, Puerto Rico in total blackout as Fiona makes landfall. A total blackout was reported on the island of Puerto Rico on Sunday as heavy rainfall and powerful winds pounded the island before Hurricane Fiona made landfall just before 4 p.m. local time. Weather forecasters said the rainfall is likely to produce devastating landslides and severe flooding, with up to 25 inches expected in some areas. A Category 1 storm, which sustained winds of 85 miles per hour, Fiona is nowhere near as powerful as Hurricane Maria, which slammed the island in 2017, nearly 5 years to the day, as a Category 4 monster. If you don't remember Hurricane Maria, that was the time when, like I said, like Puerto Rico was just fucking absolutely devastated. I mean, you should see the pictures. They're insane. And that's when Trump went over and started tossing fucking toilet paper to the people like it was fucking football, just completely making light of the situation and obviously showing that he doesn't give a fuck, you know, just hilarious but sad shit, you know. It wasn't lost on many that the nation's sole power utility company, Luma, granted control of the territory's electricity system in a 2020 privatization deal in the wake of Maria's devastation. Is the institution now in charge as the entire island has lost power in the face of Fiona? And here's a tweet from Gustavo showing the blackouts, and literally the entire island does not have power. That's how fucked up it is. And don't get me wrong, like this is like I said, it's a Category 1 storm, which, you know, regardless of the intensity, you don't want any storm, but They should have been able to prevent this, man. You know, like the entire island losing power. That's just a failure on the company's part. Because again, all they care about is money, man. You know, they let the infrastructure rot. They cut costs. They cut down the amount of times that they do maintenance, and these are the consequences. You know, it's happening all over the country. In July, major protests were organized by Puerto Ricans opposed to LUMA, a joint venture by Canada-based ATCO and Houston-based Quanta Services. Citing increased outages, unreliable service, and higher bills, opponents demanded the 15-year contract with the company be canceled. As Reuters reported in July, power rates have gone up 5 times since LUMA began operating Puerto Rico's transmission and distribution system on June 1st, 2020. The last rate hike, which took effect at the start of July, pushed rates up 17.1%. That's also a huge problem that Puerto Rico has, is that it's massively corrupt. And I think a big factor in why is because it's not a state. You know, the U.S. or there's been certain bad actors who have pushed propaganda very hard on Puerto Ricans to not gain statehood. And the main reason is because if they gain statehood, they would most likely be Democratic. And, you know, that would further push the Republicans out of power. So they don't want that. And on top of that, it's harder to root out that corruption when they don't really have the ability for the federal government to kind of step in a way that they could in places that are states, you know? In a statement on its website Sunday, LUMA said full power restoration could take several days and asks for support and patience from its customers. Carmen Yulin Cruz, who was a progressive mayor of San Juan when Maria hit the island in 2017, offered a sobering comment in response to news of the blackout. Puerto Rico is 100% without electrical power, she tweeted. The cycle of death begins. Just like the cycle of death with Hurricane Maria all those years ago, man. Like, the federal government did not do shit, man. They basically just let 3,000 people suffer and die, and the rest of the Puerto Ricans pick up the pieces, man. Barely any aid got there. They're still recovering to this day, and here you go again with them just getting battered and blasted, you know, like I said, because of climate change. And the longer we don't address the climate crisis, the longer we let these corrupt, immoral assholes run our institutions, the more people die, the more land and life is lost, and the more the world is just going to fall into chaos, man. So, like I always say, we as leftists need to build grassroots organizations within the community to subvert the power of the federal government, in my opinion. You know, we need to create structures to help people that are outside of the system, because working within the system never works, man. You see how many progressives have been put into Congress over the past almost a decade, and almost nothing has happened. Now, I'm not saying they haven't done anything. I actually do think it's important for them to be there and get progressive ideas out there and to the American people, but they need to start growing a backbone, man. The more they can capitulate and try to play the game in Washington, the more shit like this will happen, you know, when it all could have been prevented just with common sense legislation and having people in power who actually give a shit about the common man, you know? Yeah, so that's our second article. Oh, you know what? I actually just wanted also to show you a clip of a little bit of what's happening over there as well. So here we go. And yep, desktop audio's on. Crazy, man. And like I said, they still haven't recovered from the from Hurricane Maria. They're still trying to get the island back to the way it was, and unfortunately, this is just going to make it that much more harder, man. And I can't believe that we have a part of the United States that has infrastructure that's just so terrible, man. Look at that home, man. It's like a shanty. It's like a shanty that you'd see in like a freaking third world country, bro. You know, I mean, in an ideal world, we wouldn't have shanty towns anywhere, but this is what I'm talking about, man. You know, they deny Puerto Rico statehood so they don't have to spend money on building up the infrastructure and its people, man. Just classic freaking American imperialism and racism, you know? Insane, dude. Look at that. Bridge just gone. Couldn't even imagine, man. Insane stuff. Insane stuff. All right. So I'm sure you're aware that there's been like a huge clampdown on Oh shit! I didn't even notice that you commented. You said people live like that in tons of places in the USA. Oh, I know, man. I know. I was recently on a road trip to Texas, and I went to I had a stop in Kentucky, and it blew my mind, dude. It was like something that you would like see like in like the fucking 1800s or some shit, man. Like I don't even know how to describe it. Like there was this homeless woman that had asked me for a ride, so I was just driving around to the place to the places that she needed to go to, you know, chopping it up and whatever. And I'm pretty sure she had me fucking just riding her around so she could get drugs and shit. But hey, man, I don't judge, bro. You know, sometimes you need that shit to get through the day. But she ended up bringing me all around these like backwoods part of Kentucky, bro. And it was just insane, the level of poverty and deprivation some people experience in the United States. The United States has the lowest standard of living in the entire developed world, man. You know, it's brutal, and it doesn't need to be that way. We're the richest nation on earth, but you know, obviously, we all know this. They don't give a shit. It's all about the money, baby. Money and power. I've said it before. We still have kings and lords. They're corporate board members and managers. You know, the struggle for human emancipation is still ongoing, right? But anyway, like I was saying, our second article kind of is just the continuation of the crusade against LGBTQ rights, specifically trans rights, and this whole scare that's been inflamed by these sick, opportunistic governors like Ron DeSantis, the governor in Texas, and all of these just slimy lawmakers, man. You already see we got a bunch of fucking quirked up white boys over here. Real pissed off, bro. Look at this, man. All right, we're going to get into it. So this article comes from the New York Times and is by Ava Sassani. Virginia reverses school protections for transgender students. In a move that could further inflame the debate over how to handle transgender rights in schools, Virginia will no longer allow students to use facilities marked for the gender they identify with, and will mandate that they file legal documents if they wish to be called by different pronouns. Those directives were among several guidelines for schools that the Virginia Department of Education announced on Friday, in a reversal of transgender policies that the state outlined last year. The guidelines, or model policies, released by the administration of Governor Glenn Youngkin, a Republican, also say that schools must keep parents fully informed about all matters related to a child's health and social and psychological development, and that schools may not encourage or instruct teachers to conceal material information about a student from the student's parent, including information related to gender. So I'm of the opinion that children, we look at children. A lot of people look at children like they aren't human beings, man. I can understand taking some form of control of your child's life, you know, so they don't end up in like terrible situations and doing things that, you know, fuck them up permanently for life. But I also think that we need to realize that they're human beings who have their own agencies and should be able to decide some things for themselves, especially their identity, man. You know, that's one of the most important parts of psychological development as a child, you know, is being able to express yourself. Not being able to express yourself and being shamed for who you are leads to people doing stuff like this in the world where they were denied the ability to be who they are and told that who they are is inadequate or wrong or immoral. So some of these people bury that deep within themselves and they confuse that anger and hatred for not being able to be who they want to be and that repression as hatred of people who are able to express themselves in the world despite that hatred. And then on the flip side, you have people who, end up committing suicide and self-harming over policies like this. And it's over something just so stupid, man. Like, the greatest way to shut down discourse like this is just asking someone who believes in bullshit like this and, like, keeping trans people out of, the restrooms and spaces that they identify with is, well, some people are gay, some people are lesbians. It doesn't mean, like, the gay people are in there, looking over, trying to look at your dick and fucking fondle you, man. Like, the fact of the matter is there's creeps in every demographic, and, like, the studies show that, trans people are no more likely to commit sex acts or sex crimes than any other demographic. And you know who's the most likely to be pedophiles and sex offenders? You guessed it, it's white men. The people who are most ardently against this freedom of expression. So a lot of repression, a lot of projection going on here, boys. You already know. Yeah. Right. The guideline. Let me just reread this part. The guidelines or model policies released by the administration of Governor Glenn Youngkin, a Republican, also say that schools must keep parents fully informed about all matters related to a child's health and social psychological development, and that schools may not encourage or instruct teachers to conceal material information about a student from the student's parent, including information related to gender. The guidelines also say that school personnel will not be required to address or refer to a student in any manner that would run counter to an employee's personal or religious beliefs. The reversal builds on Mr. Youngkin's promises during his campaign for governor. The 2022 model policy posted delivers on the governor's commitment to preserving parental rights and upholding the dignity and respect of all public school students. Except they're doing the exact opposite. They're taking away the dignity of trans people and non-binary people so bigots can feel a little bit safer. So they can have a safe space, but the people who are actually vulnerable get left out to dry, Yeah. Democrats and LGBTQ activists say the policy poses a clear harm to transgender children, including forcing educators to disclose a child's gender identity to parents. That's obviously going to lead to harm, man. Some children, their only safe place is school with their peers, so they are able to express themselves. And we have a lot of parents with just fucked up, backwards ideas of the world, and they punish their children for not having those old attitudes, man. That's gonna increase child homelessness among the LGBT community. It's gonna, like I said, lead to self-harm and suicide, man. The goal of our society should be to limit as much pain and suffering and expand on human happiness as much as possible, instead of just doing this fascist bullshit, man. And that's exactly what it is. I know people like me, soy boy cucks, love to bring up fascism, but it's on the rise, bro. I'm telling you. And it's gonna get worse before it gets better. I do think it's gonna get better, but buckle up, boys. We're in for a rough ride. Trans kids deserve to learn and thrive in an environment free of bullying, intimidation, and fear, Mike Mullen, a Democratic member of the State House of Delegates, said on Twitter on Friday. That means being addressed as who they are and supported for who they will be, especially from their teachers and their administrators. He's exactly right, man. Community support saves lives, and taking away that support ends lives. It's as simple as that. The Education Department's move comes after a wave of legislation in several states over the past 2 years limiting the rights and protections of transgender children at school. But the announcement on Friday stood out in part because it overturned policies instituted just last year by Mr. Youngkin's predecessor, Ralph Northam, a Democrat. I also want to add that the right wing feel like they've been losing for a long time because they are the minority in the country, right? So instead of presenting their case and their ideology in the marketplace of ideas as they love to shout about, they subvert that. They subvert the will of most people in America to enact this bullshit, bro. They're liars and they're projectors. And they're just angry little weirdos, man, who don't want to let people live their lives, you know? I hate to say it, but the sooner the freaking boomers and some of Gen X just dies out when I'm like 60 years old, bro, the world's going to be a better place. I'm sorry, man. People who are older didn't have access to the information that we did, and they were blasted with propaganda 24/7, man, and a lot of them are just too far gone, you know? The price of progress, I guess, you know? But there's that article, man. Those are our articles for the day. I'm going to go ahead and take like a 5-minute break, go take a piss. Then we're going to react to a lot of good content, man. Get into it. We're going to keep chugging along. Thank you so much for coming back and freaking listening, man. It's going good. It's going good, dude. Like, it's usually a little slower on Twitch, but doing this shit and putting up the clips has been great for YouTube, man. Like, I got 10 subscribers in like a day, bro, you know? So it's going to keep on chugging. I think the YouTube and Twitch doing it side by side is just kind of reinforce each other and get that shit popping. And we'll be able to do even more cool stuff in the future, bro. I think at 100 subscribers, I'm going to start doing video essays. I think the first essay I'm going to do is going to be on capitalist realism, the book I'm reading now. Super good book and super relevant, even more so as time goes on, man. So give me a little bit. I'll be back in like 5-10 minutes and we'll get right back into it, man. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
though, I'ma find the emeralds. Don't call me Knuckles for nothing, I get loose. Sure bees fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. Stay knuckled up in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna throw me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. Don't call me Knuckles, give me a box. An aquatic mind. Once was a cold pit, but now it's a water ride. Makes you wanna sit back, enjoy the life, and do things you like doing, get to shine. It's sure bees fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. I stay knuckled up, I'm in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna cut me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. I'm in narrow roadways, running like it's a ball game. Hand tracks be tracking me to different doorways. In a maze, and I don't know what to do. Guaranteed though, I'ma find the emeralds. Don't call me Knuckles for nothing, I get loose. Sure bees fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. Stay knuckled up in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna throw me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. Don't call me Knuckles, give me a box. An aquatic mind. Once was a cold pit, but now it's a water ride. Makes you wanna sit back, enjoy the life, and do things you like doing, get to shine. It's sure bees fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. I stay knuckled up, I'm in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna cut me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. I'm in narrow roadways, running like it's a ball game. Hand tracks be tracking me to different doorways. In a maze, and I don't know what to do. Guaranteed though, I'ma find the emeralds. Don't call me Knuckles for nothing, I get loose. Sure bees fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. Stay knuckled up in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna throw me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. Don't call me Knuckles, give me a box. dragging me to different doorways. In a maze, and I don't know what to do. Guaranteed though, I'ma find the emeralds. Don't call me Knuckles for nothing, I can't lose. Sure bees fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. Stay knuckled up in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna throw me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. Don't call me Knuckles, give me a box. An aquatic mind. Once was a cold pit, but now it's a water ride. Makes you wanna sit back, enjoy the life, and do things you like doing, get to shine. It's sure bees fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. I stay knuckled up, I'm in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna cut me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. I'm in narrow hallways, running like it's a ball game. Hand tracks be tracking me to different doorways. In a maze, and I don't know what to do. Guaranteed though, I'ma find the emeralds. Don't call me Knuckles for nothing, I can't lose. Sure bees fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. Stay knuckled up in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna throw me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. Don't call me Knuckles, give me a box. An aquatic mind. Once was a cold pit, but now it's a water ride. Makes you wanna sit back, enjoy the life, and do things you like doing, get to shine. It's sure bees fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. I stay knuckled up, I'm in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna cut me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. I'm in narrow hallways, running like it's a ball game.
All right, I'm back. I had to fucking take off the jacket and the freaking hat because I was fucking burning up, bro. I was not strong enough for the drip. But all right, we're about to get into some freaking videos to react to and talk about, man. And again, if you like ever have some clips or some shit on Twitter or anything really that you want to show me, just feel free, bro. Like, I know I have like an issue of kind of being very formal, bro, and I know sometimes it can make it feel like it's just like a news show that you just see on fucking CNN or some shit, bro. But I try to keep it loose, man. We're gonna, especially in this section, it's a little bit more free form, bro. Don't feel fucking shy to interrupt me and fucking show me some shit, bro. That's what this is all about. We're gonna start up here in a minute, man. Just like to take it slow. Hope you've been doing good, Jokesa, man. I appreciate you fucking showing up pretty much every stream, man. That's dope. Hopefully we'll get some more people in here so you won't be so lonely. It's all good, man. All right. So I think our first video, hell yeah, man. Love you, bro. No cap. Yeah, so our first video with our freaking favorite Jew, Benny boy, talking about the fall of civilization and how Rome was so amazing. With this dude, Vivek Ramaswamy, he kind of comes off to me as like someone who really just doesn't give a shit at all and is just doing it for money. Like, he wrote a book just saying all the typical bullshit. He sounds like a freaking salesman. We're gonna get into it and just debunk both of these freaking dummies, stupid shit. Here we go. Desktop audio is on. I didn't fuck up at all today, man. I recorded the whole segment, you know, like, so it's going good so far. Let's try to keep it this way. Let me resize this so it is aesthetically pleasing. Wham, bam, bam. Boom. There we go.
With this, I think with this revival of the shared pursuit of excellence, the revival of civic duty, we're taking a bet. Right? The bet is this could go actually even worse, right? It's co-opted by the central government as it relates to civic duty. On the excellence side,
I mean, the whole point of the freaking civil government is civic duty, man. Why else does it exist in the first place? You know, like, I mean, and people like Ben Shapiro's and this weirdo's mind, the government is literally only just for keeping corporations rich, dude. You know, like I just don't get these people, man. How can they spout this just obvious bullshit, man? And I don't get how people follow this and agree with it, man. It's like, Americans seriously need to engage in more critical thinking, man. But it's just, as long as someone sounds official, most people will just be like, yeah, okay, without looking into it any further, man. And social media has a huge problem of just like amplifying right-wing voices, man. Like, on my, I look up a lot of right-wing bullshit for this channel, but on my personal YouTube, that I use just to fuck around and watch it on, I'll watch like one video from like Fox News or Ben Shapiro, and then my entire feed just gets inundated with just right-wing, stupid reactionary bullshit, bro. But when I go and watch stuff like, Secular Talk or the Humanist Report or any of those guys, I almost never get suggested them. I have to look for them. And YouTube knows this. Facebook knows this. I mean, Facebook has been shown to literally purposefully amplify right-wing extremists because it gets them the numbers, man. It gets them the clicks and the ad revenue. And I would not be surprised in the slightest if YouTube did the same thing, man,
Keep the government out of it. But on the citizen, on the cultivation of the citizen, the civic service, the military service piece of this, the revival of the identity of one as a citizen. Okay, if it's strictly confined to that, we're taking a bet that at least it's within the remit of what a great national leader can still.
But what does our government offer us for the incentive to be a good citizen, And being a good citizen does not mean working 9 to 5 so your boss can sit on his ass in his yacht and rake in all the money and extract all your hard work, man. Being a good citizen is about being there for your fellow human being, lifting them up, lifting all of humanity up so we can achieve greatness and our higher purpose. At least in my opinion, man, it's not about this stupid division of the world, man. I think about this all the time, man. It's crazy to me that common people aren't allowed to just freely roam the earth, bro. Like, that's how fucked up our systems are. That's how much control this machine, bro, this amorphous, nebulous machine of evil has over our minds and over so many people's hearts, like these people, where they think it's normal, they think sociopathic tendencies and are admirable, bro. It's ridiculous.
Pull off for the future of a nation that can live for the next 250 years as it has for the last 250 years, rather than going the way of the Eastern Roman Empire versus the Holy Roman Empire, which is
they always
that I think
harken
we're
back to
otherwise
that
heading
bullshit, bro.
as a
And it's funny because like the ancient man, what would you call it? Like the ancient Mediterraneans, like in Greece and Rome and all that shit, they were gay as hell, bro. I mean, don't get me wrong, they were like homophobic in like a weird way, where it was like you were basically a bro if you were a top, but if you were a bottom, they're like, oh, you're fucking gay, dude. What the hell? It was weird, dude. But I mean, I bring that up to say, like, they did not have the same view of morality as you do, bro. Again, this is what fascists and fascist adjacent people do. They look back on they morph history and reality to this idea of what they want it to be and try to sell you on lies, man, to get you brought into that bullshit, bro. It's insane.
The American experiment is heading. So I guess I think we're in a zone where we should still be willing
is based.
to play those odds
Oh, hell
in a
yeah,
way
I appreciate it, bro.
I think now
For
it goes
real.
from not just designing systems, which is what we've been talking about. I think history is written by a combination of
Let me start that over. I gotta fucking I gotta find a way to not hear the follow shit, because I'll see it and I'll shout you out, but it always trips me up, bro. I got I feel like I'm slightly brain damaged, man. I cannot concentrate when there's shit popping off around me. Let me rewind a little bit. But hell yeah, thanks, man. Gotta big up the new folks in the Twitch. Oh, hell yeah, bro. You know how it is, bro. Leftists taking over the world, baby. Let's do it. Dude, haven't seen you here before. Oh, yeah, dude. I just started 10 days ago, man. But 3 days ago, I really kicked it into high gear, started streaming every day, taking this shit seriously, bro. And it's popping off pretty good, especially on YouTube. You're my 9th follower on here, but yesterday on YouTube, bro, I got 10 subscribers, Bet I just hosted you. You're the man, bro. Big ups, big ups. That's how we do it, man. All right, let's get into it.
to play those odds in a way that I think now goes from not just designing systems, which is what we've been talking about. I think history is written by a combination of systems and the first personal human beings who then shape that history.
There you go with the classic idea of the strong man who leads history forward, the kind of Nietzschean ideology. I don't necessarily dislike Nietzsche, but a lot of fascists love his ass, man. And the whole reason civilization exists as it does now is because of human cooperation, the famous quote, Rome was not built in a day, and it was not built by the fucking aristocracy and the people in charge. It was built by the faceless common man who you don't hear about, man. That is what civilization and human progress is. There are people in the world who are exceptional and jettison us into new ways of thinking and human progress, but they had to get there with the help on the backs of every single person who came before them, When you take time to add your social links, throw your YouTube and Twitter up there like I have in my layout. Okay, I got you, bro. I'm new to Twitch. I don't watch Twitch streams, you know what I mean? I'm usually over on YouTube and stuff, but yeah. It's on the screen, but a link would be nice. Okay, I got you guys. Today, after the stream, I'm going to go ahead and get this shit set up real nice, bro. I'm the type of person who, I have an idea, and I'm just okay, let's do it. I go as fast as freaking possible, and sometimes I forget to do shit. But hey, you guys are my boys looking out. I appreciate it, man. Get back into it.
At least have a vision for that system. In this fear of American capitalism and the fear of American democracy, here's the affirmative values that we can revive as a shared, cohering national identity based on excellence, based on civic revival of civic duty, and then bet on the possibility that when America went through its last identity crisis in the late 70s, a leader rose to tie up the pieces that we might...
There was a point I wanted to make there.
Then bet on the possibility that when America went through its last identity crisis in the late 70s, a leader rose to tie up the pieces that we...
So I think we have been in a slow motion reckoning with capitalism and specifically American capitalism and imperialism. I think in the 60s, more so in like the mid 60s to the late 1970s, especially after the Vietnam War, those ideas of what is it called? Of modernism. Those ideas of modernism were starting to die out, and we were being introduced to postmodernism and capitalist realism, but I think after 9/11, it kind of shut down the conversation, you know what I mean? And so we've been kind of stuck in history, I feel like that's why things feel so repeated and like we're sludging along in this kind of death march, because we never got to have the full battle here in the United States between these ideas of communism versus capitalism, or socialism versus capitalism. And since the U.S. is a global hegemonic power, it affects the entire world, where we're just creeping to our death, and while the solution is in plain sight in my eyes. What do you think about that trans teacher who broke down and cried because her students misgendered them? Well, I mean, it's unfortunate, man. Nobody wants to feel that way, have their identity, called into question and mocked. I didn't see that, an elementary school teacher. Yeah, I mean, I was going to say kids are kids, kids are fucking assholes. And sometimes they don't realize like the shit that they do, If you're going to be someone who goes up in front of people and does this shit, you kind of think they thought the second grade. Yeah, right. I think you have to have thicker skin, you have to be able to take that criticism, and instead of caving to that pressure, maybe try and educate these people. But I mean, that's harder and harder every day. We went into an article, I think before you were on, how they're just clamping down on trans rights and all that bullshit, bro. So it gets harder. And I'm sure she's aware of this and all this stuff happening in school, and it's extra stress. So no hate on her. Yeah, but at some point you're being too sensitive. No, I definitely agree. Like, I 100% believe in compassion and recognizing the dignity and humanity of others, but you also have to realize that the world is a tough place. People aren't going to agree with you, and shit like that. I mean, like I said, you do you, man. Whatever her struggle is, she's going to have to deal with it. But in my opinion, you've got to build yourself up. You got to be more sure of yourself in the world, and you've got to say, fuck it, man. I'm going to be who I'm going to be. And if you don't like that, that's too bad. And again, they're kids, man. They're going to say mean shit, and they're probably hearing this dumb bullshit from their parents who, are bigoted as fuck, But I digress. Let's get back into this shit. Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly.
Might put ourselves in the position for the same thing to happen sometime in the next half decade. Because if it ain't happening in the next half decade, I think the cake is mostly baked. And
yeah, I don't see why that's a story. Would you tell a teacher to toughen up if they cried for any other reason? I mean, me personally, I wouldn't tell anybody to toughen up. I may seem like I'm a big tough guy. I'm just kidding, but I cry literally all the time, dude. I'm emotional as fuck. I'll be crying at movies. I'll be crying at shit on YouTube, bro. I'm a little bitch. But kids are bad, but adults can be worse. Well, I mean, kids don't know any better for the most part. Adults doing shit like this are just assholes, or they have shit within themselves that they haven't figured out, and they project that on others, man. I love saying projection, but projection is the name of the game in this world, bro. I project all the time, I'm not above it. I just think LGBTQ became too much. Well, I mean, I kind of get what you're saying, bro. I think there's like a very small section of like their community who goes overboard, but like not overboard in terms of like human rights, give all the rights to everybody, you know what I mean? But they present themselves in a way that feeds into the hysteria, you know what I mean? And it puts people off. And unfortunately in this world, I don't even be trying to talk about the community. I have LGBT, but I hate the group overall. I mean, I don't hate the group. I think that, damn, what was I just saying? Yeah, I think they want too much. They want too much freedom at this point. And a lot of their major problems are absurd. I don't know, bro. Like some of the shit does get stupid. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like one thing that I don't have a problem with, but I just kind of disagree on a philosophical standpoint is the concept of creating new genders. So we live in a gendered society where genders exist, and because we live in that, you said they want to, right? Oh, my bad, dude. I'm a little bit autistic. I'm not even joking. I think I'm a little bit autistic. Sometimes I don't get sarcasm, but um, I think that. Damn, what was I just saying? It's all good, man. I'm going in circles, man. I'm pro LGBT. Give them all the rights. The minority, the shrieking minority, is a minority, but sometimes they speak the loudest and just end up hurting their cause instead of helping it. You know what I mean?
And the best we're going to do as local institutions there on going forward. The only problem with that, Ben, is that 20 years later, that means that China.
Oh, yeah. So he was just talking about 50 years in the future, bro. 50 years, if we do the shit that these guys want to do, it's literally going to be a fucking McWasteland, bro. Like, in 30 years or less, we're going to have resource wars over water, bro. Capitalism is not going to solve that, bro. For me, in my opinion, it's socialism or the apocalypse, man. Capitalism has run its course. We need to start thinking outside of the box in ways to combat this. Because if we don't, it's going to get ugly and it's going to get fascist real quick. I just say let people do whatever they want. If you have a gender you like, why do you care? Agreed. No, oh yeah, I didn't get to finish that point. My point with gender is that, I mean, I could see like maybe 1,000 years from now, gender not even being a concept because it is made up. It's a social construct, you know? And like I said, in our own historical context right now, go ahead and fucking go ahead and do what you want and have those genders and all of that. And it can be useful for, you know, social classification and identification. But I think as society progresses, gender is just going to be a thing of the past. You know what I mean? That's my take on it. Like I'm not, you know, anti non-binary, any of that. You do you, man. Yeah, I agree. Gender is stupid. Outside of pronouns, it's irrelevant. Yeah, exactly, man. Like I said, there are people who just take it too far, and I don't like to use right wing talking points, but something that is true, and it's a minority, you know what I mean. But it's something that gets on my nerves. Is some people, especially younger people, like teenagers, they kind of try to just use it for social points, you know, and that's just a small minority, but it does get to me. It's like, come on, man. Like you can try some other ways to be cool instead of like wearing pronouns like it's a freaking trend, you know? He said I'm an advocate for capitalism. Hey, you do you, man. That's all I have to say, man. There's too much shit going on for me to be in favor of that, bro. Too much suffering. Why is gender so complex now? This world is getting crazy, man. I mean, I think we're like on the precipice of the next human revolution. Like just like the Industrial Revolution kind of jettisoned into us into the age of modernism. Now we're at the stage of postmodernism, which I think is the death bell for this era. And the next era can be an age of calamity and destruction and devastation, or it can be an era of just untold prosperity and human achievement, man. We're on the precipice of some major breakthroughs. Like with fusion technology, it don't get me wrong, it's decades down the line, but they're making breakthroughs. And with fusion technology could solve the energy crisis across the globe, almost unlimited energy permanently. Do you know how much that would change the fabric of society, man? So we're right at that edge, but we need to take back the levers of control so we can use those things for human interests instead of corporate profit. People have worn cultures and identities falsely forever. I don't see why this one is more annoying than Eminem. No, I agree, man. That's more of my just personal opinion, man. You know what I mean? And especially, like I said, it's mostly teenagers who do that shit. They'll get over it. They'll find out who they are. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, another another downside of like the attention economy is that you have people who are just getting into that sociopathic behavior where they basically turn themselves into clowns for clout. You know what I mean? I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that those genders are like clownish or like whatever, but I'm just saying like they try to do anything to stand out from the crowd to get those sweet clicks and likes and attention, you know, like that's just how it is. LOL, we gotta all go live and capitalize off Jeff Bezos. Hell yeah, man. Give me that money, bro. He doesn't need all that bullshit. $1 million and I would be set for life, bro. Come on. All right.
The national identity is so shaken at its core that we might, you know, the great grandkids might all be, you know, Chinese slaves in some shape, way, or form. And
there we go with the fucking Chinese xenophobia. What the fuck, bro? Like, don't get me wrong, China is fucked up. They are authoritarian, but I'm pretty sure from the last time I looked, most Chinese people have a higher standard of living than people in the United States. You know, like, and China isn't necessarily, like, they aren't militarily aggressive imperialist most of the time. Obviously, they're extremely aggressive towards Taiwan, but their whole thing is kind of economic imperialism instead of old world, like conquer the world type shit. You know what I mean? But I mean, what can I say, bro? Whenever they can slide in just a little hint of racism, especially towards the superpower that they aren't on the side of, that's what they do. Doesn't the Youngkin laws stop kids from being posers and force them to legally change to be recognized? I'm not sure what that is. Let me look it up. Oh, okay, that's a dude. I thought you were saying like Youngkin as like some type of identity. Oh yeah, you're right. My bad. I'm also terrible with names, bro. Doesn't the Youngkin doesn't the Youngkin laws stop kids from being posers and force them to legally change to be recognized? Not necessarily, man. I think it's just something. I think the law is overly authoritarian and broad. Again, I don't care if these kids want to be posers and do this shit, man. As long as the people who actually feel that dysphoria and don't feel like they fit into those molds are able to express themselves in a way that's safe and in a way that they can do it with the community and have support from the community, I'm all for it, bro. That law is just bullshit that will hurt children in the long term, you know?
And that we're just waiting for the
Honestly,
arrival.
the only thing that prevents that is just the comparative advantage that the capitalistic system has over the communistic system. I mean, China has.
Like what, bro? Millions of people die every year because of starvation when it's 100% preventable, dude. Like, so much death and destruction. Every time someone talks about how capitalism is so much better than communism, I have to bring up South America, man. Because socialism was working and it was taking away money from the corporations in the United States, the CIA rained hellfire on Latin America. Every single country down there, except for one, had the CIA involved in a right-wing coup that brought devastation and destruction, rape and murder across the Southern Hemisphere, bro. It was carnage, and that was all for money. And they were pissed off because they were nationalizing public services and nationalizing extraction industries and farming industries to help the people, man. And they couldn't have that because that affected their bottom line, bro. Don't give me that fucking capitalism bullshit, man. Come on.
We're not even deriving, but on the trajectory that you described, I'm not even sure we're fully positioned to have those benefits anymore.
I mean,
really,
that's quite possible. I mean, I do think that the internal, to sound like a Marxist, I think the internal contradictions of the Chinese system are going to prove unworkable over the course of time, but not before they do an.
Wait, what the fuck are these guys saying? They're the type of people who like to use a lot of word salad to appear smart, so it's just fucking hard to follow sometimes, you know?
have those benefits anymore.
I mean, that's an advantage that the capitalistic system has over the communistic system. I mean, China has a lot of...
As a side note, China is not communist at all, dude. Like, you can say that you're communist and socialist all day long. It's all about the material actions that you put forth. The Nazi Party called themselves like the National Socialist Party, while they burned books about socialism and communism. You know, the Chinese system is more state capitalist, you know, with like socialist characteristics. I know people love to say it, but there really hasn't ever been a communist system. Communism is when the workers control the means of production. Where has that ever been done, you know? And I'm not one of those people who think communism can like happen immediately. I fall more in like the Marxist, Leninist, Maoist kind of circle where, and more specifically with Lenin, where you need to have a socialist state in the beginning, but at the very beginning, you need to start changing society and breaking down those boundaries so that the state can wither away. It's all in the books, man. I highly suggest you guys read Lenin and Mao. I mean, Mao obviously did some fucked up shit, but that doesn't mean he wasn't a good strategist and he had some valuable insights for the left, you know? And Lenin, base, man, what can I say? You know?
We're not even deriving, but on the trajectory that you described, I'm not even sure we're fully positioned to have those benefits anymore.
I mean,
really,
that's quite possible. I mean, I do think that the internal, to sound like a Marxist, I think the internal contradictions of the Chinese system are going to prove unworkable over the course of time, but not before they do an extraordinary amount of actual material military damage.
Yep.
I think that the possibility of...
That's so much projection, bro. Like the U.S. empire is kind of in its death rows right now. You know what I mean? Like, we're doing all this political maneuvering in the Ukraine, trying, without question, don't get it twisted, trying to keep them in a forever war to beat down the Russian economy and the Russian people, and as well as try and reposition themselves as the big baddie. I mean, don't get me wrong, they still are, but it's starting to crumble, and they're trying to do everything they can to stay on top, and that includes just the vicious, constant propaganda with China. You know what I mean? And like I always say, all these superpowers are fucked up, and they're playing games with people's lives to get that step up and be the top dog when they could be focusing on a lot more productive things, you know? But that's how the world is.
China starting to invade sovereign surrounding entities, including Taiwan, is now at an all-time high.
Right.
And I think that it's increasing pretty dramatically day by day because, again, they're looking at the fact that they...
And when it comes to Taiwan, so here's my take on that. If China had taken them over like 50, 60 years ago when the dictator first left the country, then I would say go for it, man. Like the way that Vietnam, or not Vietnam, what the fuck am I talking about? Damn, I'm all fucked up. The way that Taiwan came into existence is after the civil war between the communists and the old empire. The dictator of the empire corralled all of his political and military elite to Taiwan and installed like a brutal dictatorship over there, you know? So it was fucked up and authoritarian and all that bullshit. And China would have taken it over and liberated Taiwan a long time ago if it wasn't for U.S. meddling. They basically wanted Taiwan as like a stronghold within Asia. And they were like, if you go for them and try to fuck them up, we're going to fucking rain hellfire on you. And the Chinese Communist Party couldn't deal with that because they just got through a civil war. There was widespread freaking destruction and death and devastation, and they had to deal with that and rebuild up, you know, the Chinese mainland and all that. But fast forward, like, you know, to today, Taiwan is obviously its own thing now. There's really no point in trying unification. They have their own systems. They have their own system. They have relative democracy. You know what I mean? At this point, they're just. I think it just goes back to like deep cultural anger over not being able to reunify all of China. You know what I mean? So it's very much based in that just the ghosts of the past. You know, they need to let that shit be and just handle their shit internally. Yeah, China can't even now take that island. No, I mean, definitely not. It would just further deeply destabilize the world. They would lose some of their economic power. You know, they would definitely lose out on trading and shit like that. China is a lot more of a competent imperialist power than the US, you know? So I don't think they're going to take as much risks in that regard, you know? But don't get it wrong, they definitely want it. And the war in Russia and Ukraine kind of emboldened them in a way to be a little bit more aggressive with it. But I don't see them retaking Taiwan anytime soon, if ever. But hey, no one expected Russia to do all this crazy shit either, you know? So who knows?
Are reproducing at far less than replacement rate. They're looking at the fact that they have extraordinary structural debt. They're looking at the fact their economic growth has been on paper for...
We keep getting fucking caught up in these conversations, bro. I'm sorry I keep rewinding, but hey, this is what it's all about. I love the conversation. It keeps the flow going. It keeps me nice and relaxed, man. You know, I appreciate it.
Sovereign surrounding entities, including Taiwan, is now at an all-time high.
I definitely don't think China would invade anywhere else unless they got attacked, man. So that's just straight up lies.
Right. I think that it's increasing pretty dramatically day by day because, again, they're looking at the fact that they are reproducing at far less than replacement rate. They're looking at the fact that they have extraordinary structural debt. They're looking at the fact their economic growth has been on paper for quite a while now.
They always like harp on the debt, but the U.S. is in extreme debt, you know, and that isn't always bad. You know what I mean? It's a way to keep infrastructure growing and to try and do different things to grow the economy. With if you don't have the resources to do it, it's a gamble like everything else in a money-based society is, you know. The US has no place to talk about debt, especially when we have all this debt and have nothing to show for it. Like we've already talked about infrastructure is crumbling all around the US. We have the most amount of child poverty here. Where there's a huge wave of anti-intellectualism, again, because I think of McCarthyism back in the day that just is completely devastating the United States. We have no place to talk about the state of other countries. China's pop is starting to decline, and the reason they can't take Taiwan is lack of troop. I agree, it's now or never. Then it's probably going to be never, bro. And I've said it before, I don't think a draft in any developed nation would fly anymore, man. The internet has created people who are a lot more skeptical of power, even in places that are heavily censored like China and stuff. It still gets through those systems, you know, like, and we're a lot more of an international community now. Most common people realize that war brings nothing but just death and destruction. And it's almost never positive, and the goal is almost never for anything other than power politics, you know?
And they're realizing that maybe the way to grasp comparative power is to not generate more wealth for themselves, but to decrease the amount of wealth for everybody else.
Exactly.
Bullshit.
And I think there's a version of this dynamic, it reminds
They say all this shit, but they never give like statistics or data or any kind of events to back it up. Like, how, man? Like, China is one of the biggest exporters in the world, bro. When other economies boom and trade with China, China grows and prospers, you know? They're just mad that they're taking a piece of the pie that they think should belong to the United States and the West, you know?
the famous Keynes quote or whatever, the market can stay rational longer than you can stay liquid, sort of betting against a phenomenon. That's like the dynamic between China and the United States, militarily speaking, which is that, okay, yes, that gravy train ain't going to be running forever on the Chinese side of this. History teaches us that centrally planned economies and dictatorial systems usually fail under, among other things, even the hubris of their own leaders.
That's not true at all, man. You have to think, I mean, like, yes, there has been, you know, attempts at socialism and communism that have failed because of terrible leadership and a lack of planning or a lack of adequate planning. But a lot of the reason why all of these socialist and communist experiments failed was because of the immense pressure from the U.S. and Eastern Europe, more specifically, to curtail communism and socialism around the world. Like I said, they had all those CIA operations in South America. They had whole wars to prevent communism, like in Vietnam and Korea. They put sanctions on most of these places, and it crippled them and it made it harder to participate on the global stage, because the global stage is set up to benefit capitalist countries and imperialist countries instead of those nations trying to buck the trend, you know? So of course it's going to be a struggle. And of course a lot of those systems failed because of the insurmountable obstacles that they had to face. But we got to keep trying, man. We got to keep trying. Capitalism continues to and will continue to spell disaster as long as it keeps on chugging along, you know?
I think it's the best chance with Xi Jinping. And they do have their vulnerabilities.
But not before he completely wrecks our economy. I mean, like, if he invades
maybe even wrecks us
Taiwan.
militarily. I mean, let's just talk about Taiwan for a second, where so I've sort of started to, you know, I'm not a military expert, I'm not going to claim to be one, but as someone who's looked at this more than the average layperson, I will say that, you know, I've talked to Mike Pence about this, I've talked to, you know, Pompeo, others, you know, I'm sure you've had conversations with many of the same folks. They will tell you, as I believe, that, okay, military conflict, we still come out ahead. I think that's what they're supposed to say, but
over Taiwan, if they're saying that we come out ahead short of a full-scale shooting war between the United States and China over Taiwan,
I think it's kind of pointless to like capitulate over that. I really don't think any countries that have nuclear arms will risk going to war unless it's something very, very extreme. You know what I mean? And in terms of whether they would actually win or not, I kind of think it's up in the air. You know what I mean? China does have a massive military, and they can just throw troops at the United States. You know, just bodies just pile up the bodies in an effort to win. But United States, without a doubt, has a vast network all across the globe and intelligence apparatuses and superior military equipment that could definitely devastate, man. Like, I don't see really anyone coming out on top of, like, a war like that, because that would just be World War III. And you know the saying about that, man. We're going to go back to fucking fighting with sticks and stones if that happens.
I don't think we can stop them from taking Taiwan.
I don't think we should stop
they're
them
5
from taking
seconds
Taiwan.
from Taiwan, and we don't have the naval assets available
We don't have the naval
to
assets.
stop them. It's not. If they choose to take Taiwan, it's just a question of how many casualties they take to take Taiwan.
Yeah, I mean, if they really wanted to take Taiwan, I don't think there's a lot anybody really could do to stop them. You know what I mean? They would risk too much trying to engage militarily. Nah, dude, it's impossible. Man, I really just don't know. I could see them honestly getting it with the right, like, they are clueless. Yeah, I mean, I'd have to look more into, like, the military strategy and shit, you know? I'm more of, like, a politics and economics kind of guy and not, like, a, you know, foreign policy dude. But, I mean, shit. Like I say, in my opinion, it could go either way. Like I think about it kind of like in the situation with Russia and Ukraine. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, Russia's struggling hardcore right now, but China's a little bit stronger than them. You know, like, I would see it, like, probably dragging on a long time and there being a lot of casualties on both sides, but who knows? And on top of that, when they're, like, we saw it with the U.S. and Vietnam, man, when you have oppressors that are committing war crimes and doing terrible things to your people, all it does is bolster the resolve of the people fighting, and they know the areas better, you know, like, guerrilla warfare can seriously fuck up even the most powerful nations, you know? So we can speculate all we want, but we really wouldn't know definitively until something like it actually happens, you know? But I always respect everybody's opinion, bro, you know? Unless it's some hateful bullshit.
I actually agree with you, and I think that, you know, we did this exercise of sending the you know, ships through the Taiwanese Strait and sending a signal. The irony, and I think China knows this, I mean, from public information, any reasonable person could piece this together. Our Navy is actually going through an interesting period right now. It's a what they call the divest to invest program.
Right.
So they're playing for 30 years from now, but they're actually decommissioning
that's right.
ships at an extraordinary rate. And so if you're China, you're watching that the ultimate irony, I don't know if it's literally true for the 2 ships that went through the Taiwanese Strait, but it might have been. As best I know, if I had to guess, it probably was true. That the moment that China chooses to invade Taiwan, if it's like 6 years from now or 5 years from now, those won't even be the ships. Those ships will have been decommissioned.
Right.
So the irony of like the very exercise we went through to puff our chests, like those very carriers will have been retired according to our divest to invest plan for the U.S. Navy.
I mean, a lot of, like I've said, like I talked about when we were talking about the article of Julian Assange, a lot of this stuff is not as planned out and calculated as you think it is. Like I was in military intelligence for a short period, and it really is just these like pompous, overpaid assholes trying to play general and they have like war game brain, you know what I mean? And it really is just about trying to be the biggest and baddest, and obviously they're gonna puff their chest, man. They don't like it when they feel threatened, and imperialist powers are always paranoid as hell, bro. You know what I mean? They're always scared to lose that power.
Navy in the very time frame that China is actually going to be invading Taiwan. And so I keep going back and forth between a view that I think the window, in any case, I've always said they weren't going to do it before October of this year, because that's when Xi takes his unprecedented 3rd term.
Right.
That's when, you know, it's a big move in China, by the way. He doesn't want to rock the boat to break the chain of succession, which is 2 5-year terms. He's going to take an unprecedented 3rd term. That's a big deal. It's happening like in a month and a half, right? I mean, that's in October. So he was never going to go before then.
He's got to put some W on the board.
Which he's got to put some W on the board, but stability. But stability is the key. I mean, because there's some opposition even with.
Well, all right, man. I think we're done with this video. I think we extracted as much as we could out of it, man. At the end of the day, I do think that China does shit that's not okay, just like with every imperialist power. But a lot of this video was just projection, man. You know what I mean? America does the same shit, if not worse, all the time, man. And I'm not saying that, you know, to be like, oh, what about this, what about that? They're all fucked up, man. But we have to cut through the propaganda to actually understand what's going on in the world, you know? Yeah, so there's that video. What should we get into next? Not another Ben one. I'm kind of burnt out on him now. Climate change. Drones, officers. Well, you know what, man? I think it was a pretty good stream today, bro. I think I'm going to go ahead and cut it there. We got a new follower. Woohoo. That's awesome. I appreciate the follow. I know I got to start doing more like reaction videos with YouTube, man, but I kind of, sometimes I can get into the groove with it, you know what I mean? But, and then sometimes I'm just like, what can I really, I just got to get better at cultivating the content from these clips to kind of delve deeper into it, you know? So we'll get there, man. I appreciate you freaking coming here and all that bullshit, bro. I'm going to be back here tomorrow. I might stream a little bit more today. Who knows, man, you know? Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah, man. Always appreciate seeing you here, dude, for real. I come on, bro, and you're here, and I'm like, there we go. I got at least one fucking dude, you know? And most of the time I get some more people. Like, I've only had one stream where I haven't gained a follower on Twitch, and YouTube is just absolutely fucking popping off. At least for me, man. Like, most, like, I would say more than half the videos I get over 100 views. I get at least a subscriber off of, like, each video. So it's going, man. It's rolling, bro. I bet I could have, like, 100 subscribers on YouTube by the end of the year. So we're going to keep chugging along. We're going to keep doing this shit, bro. Again, thanks so much, man. I'll see you next time.